stand by. The vacuum tubes are warming up. This is a special live broadcast right here on Georgia Radio.
Oh, good evening, everyone. This is Wade here with Matt Jolly on Georgia Radio with the Georgia Folk and Farm Life radio show, and brought to you by Meeks Cattle Company. And I just want to welcome our friend and group member and Georgia Folk and Farm Life group member and photographer extraordinaire and all-around good guy, Cedric Bacon is our guest tonight. Hello, Cedric.
Hey, how you doing, Wade?
I'm quite well, as you say, fat and happy. I got all that covered, both of them.
I heard that.
I'm going to get right off to it now. You live in Bullock County, right, in Statesboro?
Yeah, Statesboro. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you are a full-time professional photographer now, right?
Oh yeah, full-time. I've been a year and a couple of months. Yep.
I was looking back at your. That's amazing. You know, I know there's nothing like being able to do what you love as a living. It's not a job. It's an avocation. And, you've got to be good. You can't, there's a lot of competition, and you can't just put out your shingle and make a living as a photographer unless you're good. And there's two parts. In my book, a good photographer, he's like a draftsman. He can draw it up, make it like people want it. And that's how he makes his living. But then he's got his art side, his part that he takes photographs for himself. So it is a dichotomy. There's two parts to your photography. There's your photography that you put your heart into to sell to people that is a part of you, and then there's that other part of you that loves photography and is your art form that you do that's separate from your business. So talk to us about how you became a photographer, how you got interested, and a little about how you became. And talk. Matt is laughing because he sees that Conway is just eating me alive over here. So yeah. While I'm being chewed up, and spit out by a little dog, talk to us, Cedric, and tell us about how you got into photography.
Well, I got into it. I was going to say it was a passion, but it still is a passion. When I first realized how much I loved it, it was by accident. Really, I took a picture of the moon back in 2017, and I was so amazed at the details you can get from a camera. Right. It just blew me away. So when I took that photo of the moon, you can see the craters, you can see, and it was a little cheap camera. I wasn't really into photography like that. What happened? My brother-in-law, which is a photographer, he told me about the possibilities of like getting a shot of the moon. It was super moon. It was the harvest moon for the end of the year. And, he said he actually had that camera for sale. So I was doing YouTube videos and I only used it for recording. So after I stopped doing YouTube, I was trying to sell it. So when he called me and he said he still got that camera, I said, oh yeah, man, I thought he was going to want to buy it, but he was like, it's a super moon out. And if you can try to get a shot of it, I was like, man, I don't know nothing about, actual, the photography side. I do the video a little bit, but only for YouTube, so I wasn't too deep into that either. So he kind of, gave me some pointers, and when I captured that image, I was just blown away of what a camera can do, and that's what got me excited about it. So after that, I kind of got, I got my first micro lens because I see it can zoom out far, so I wanted to see can I, zoom in on the, on smaller stuff like, just like butterflies, just the simple stuff like caterpillars. Right. And so I got that lens, that micro lens, and I was able to see ants and caterpillars and butterflies up close, ladybugs up close, and it was like I was in a whole different world. So I was just blown away again. So I was like, man, you know what? I think I'm on to something. So I was like, it was for myself. It wasn't as far as like I'm on to like a business or anything. I wasn't even thinking about a business. It was like a hobby because I really never had a hobby, So I was like, man, I'm on something. So I started sharing on Facebook, and I got feedback. Was like, man, I never knew, a caterpillar or a spider looked that amazing up close. So I was like, they was finding it amazing like me. So I was, oh man, I might be on to something. So I kept, just sharing the stuff. And I was like, I was just finding myself getting more and more, attachments for my camera. And they started growing and growing and growing. So one day, it was a good friend of mine. Her name is China Parker. She wanted me to do a family shoot. And I was like, why would you want, in my head, I was like, why would you want me to do a family shoot when I'm taking photos of like bugs and, grasshoppers, cattle,
Right.
So I was like, man, they must see something I don't see. So I ended up doing it, and I didn't charge her, but she still gave me something for it. And when she shared it on social media, that's when I got a whole wave of like people like telling me how good, her family photos look. Keep in mind now, I'm still, fascinated by taking photos of like, nature and stuff. So I wasn't really grasping like, people complimenting me about, just, photos, family photos, like portraits. So that kind of like carried on to something else for people, want me to take photos of their families and do weddings and stuff. So I kind of got overwhelmed to where I wanted to do what I wanted to do, So I felt like nature was like what I really wanted to do. And I didn't want to lose my excitement, to carry up on something that I wasn't sure I wanted to follow, suit in. So it kept growing, and people kept offering more money and more money. So I kind of incorporated portrait style into, the nature stuff that I already do. The thing about nature, Wade, that kind of got me really hooked on it. See, I stay in states where I'm originally from Register. There's nothing but woods out there. So we was in tune with like, that's what I'm saying. So we was in tune with like a lot of like our surroundings, like woods, and at night you can see the fireflies and just the simple stuff in life, man, that I came up on, that I always appreciated. So as an adult, it's almost like I went back to my childhood again, and it's almost like I'm reliving my childhood as a grown man, and it was the best feeling in the world. So
Cedric,
I didn't want
to. Let me interrupt you here. You just made me think. When I touched on something that I've been doing interviewing a series of photographers and we've got, I say we, I know, but that have been a part of Georgia Folk Farm Life and a lot of other things too. But I've been doing this series, and I really, until you said that, never really put it in my head in a way, that childlike wonder. And when you bring that childlike wonder, when you can bring it in to the art of photography, that's not stepping back. That's a great advancement. Because you are making yourself. Sometimes, like when I write, I have to make myself vulnerable. I tell things and talk about things that a lot of people say, I don't believe I'd have put that out. I don't believe I would have written that. I don't believe I told that. That was kind of private personal. But if you're going to do it, you have to do it 100%. And you have to bring your childhood into my writing. And I think you just made me realize that it works the same with photography, and especially with nature photography. You have to make yourself vulnerable and to being bragged on or criticized, either one, because you're not doing it for the plaudits. You're doing it because you're bringing that childlike wonder to a camera lens, and then you find out that people love that. That's got to be a rewarding experience.
Yeah, it definitely was. And, like I was saying, like, okay, so far as the portraits and stuff went, like, I found out I got a passion for photography as a whole, like portraits, nature, just anything, landscape, anything. When I started getting feedback from people when they were saying, like, they seen their photos after I took them and they would cry, that really made me feel good.
Wow.
That really made me feel good.
That's amazing.
So, yeah.
You when you move people to tears that don't necessarily get moved to tears easily, you have to pause and reflect. Exactly. So this is it's moved beyond what you expected from being a photographer. And when did you actually? Let me ask you this, Cedric. I've never had anything published, and I still consider myself a writer. When did you decide that where you were proud enough of what you were doing that you could say, I am a photographer. I'm not playing at it. I'm not planning to be or hoping to one day be. When did you, and I know you can't tell me you haven't already passed that point. When did you become a photographer in your mind?
When I took a photo, let me tell you how it happened. I was so fascinated with the moon and stuff, and I know you remember the total solar eclipse of 2017?
Yes.
I took off my job to actually go travel to photograph that eclipse. Keep in mind, I had never, experienced a total eclipse. It was. I was just reading about it and looking at it on YouTube and looking at photos that I just, pull up on Google or whatnot. I was blown away. In my head, I was like, I have to capture this. Like, for me, it's just something that I never thought I'd see in my life. And here I am on my way to go take a photo of that. Took off. I had no vacation time. And people were like, back then, I don't think they didn't know how serious I was about, like, photography overall. So when I took off, they was like, "You really taking off to go capture the eclipse?" I was like, "Yeah." So when my wife and my kids, we went down to Columbia, South Carolina, and we started up, and it was like, it was so packed. I didn't realize that many people that was, traveling for this type of stuff. So I felt like that's the exact day I felt like hey, I'm a real photographer. I took off the thousands of people out there.
When people start saying, they go out and look at a certain moon or an eclipse, and then when they say, well, let's go look and see what Cedric did with it. Let's see his pictures of it, rather than actually the event itself. Then you add to it in a way that is new, and we have social media has transformed photography, hasn't it?
Oh yeah.
And just now, in a couple of minutes, we've got to go to break in a couple of minutes. But I want you to talk about aren't you glad that you came into photography when social media was a part of it? Because up until then, it has been, social media's got horrible aspects. It's got some great aspects too, and one of it is that photographers and other people that are doing passionate artwork from the heart get a way to expose themselves that they used to have to wait for somebody to. It was like trying to become a basketball star or something. Thousands hope to be. You get to be, and now you used to, you had to like wait for a publisher to publish your book. You had to do the same, hoping somebody would take one of your photographs. And so digital photography and social media came of age together to transform photography, and being a photographer is different now than it's ever been.
It has. I agree with you, Wade. Social media has really birthed a lot of success, people's success. Yeah. They always talk about the downside.
I hated to see film go, Kodachrome and film, and that is, people are still working in film. Some it's kind of an arcane art form now, but as much as I miss film photography, and people printing photographs. Digital photography is a fabulous thing. It takes nothing away from film, and film doesn't take away from it. Are we time for our break, Matt? Are we due for a break? Yeah. Well, Cedric, we're going to go to our mid-show break here and give a shout-out to our great sponsors, Meeks Brothers Cattle Company. Hi, this is Wade Peebles from Georgia Folk and Farm Life Radio. I'm here to tell you about Meeks Brothers Cattle Company. And you don't have to worry about supply chain issues or where your beef comes from. Do what I do and call Meeks Brothers Cattle Company today. You can get a whole, half, a quarter, any amount of beef you want. Good quality beef, vacuum packed, lasts up to 3 years in your freezer. It's grass-fed, grain finished, made to order. Visit Meeks Brothers Cattle Company on Facebook today and tell them Brother Wade sent you. And that's Meeks Brothers Cattle Company. Thank you.
O'Reilly. This is Claudia's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
I had just moved to a new city and barely even knew where the grocery store was yet.
When my car wouldn't start one morning, I didn't know who to ask about local shops. But I remembered a name from back home, O'Reilly Auto Parts. I called, and they pointed me to a great mechanic just down the street. Now, I feel a little more at home.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Switch to Metro by T-Mobile and save more. Get the new iPhone SE now with 5G at the lowest price in prepaid. Just $99.99.
I post a lot, and thanks to the iPhone SE with 5G and advanced 4K camera, I'm snapping and sharing while my followers are smashing the like button.
Switch and get the iPhone SE for just $99.99. Only at Metro. Save more versus national prepaid brands. Limited time offer. In-store only. Price for 64GB model with eligible ports. $60 plan and ID. See 5G device coverage and access details at metrobytmobile.com.
Georgia Radio. On your phone, in your home, everywhere you go.
Yeah, we're back from midway of the show here after talking about our great sponsor and some good stuff. The finest beef to be had from Meeks Brothers Cattle Company. And tonight on the show here, our guest is Cedric Bacon, continuing with a series we are doing, highlighting photographers that have been a part of Georgia folk and farm life and help make us what we are. And so we're talking to Cedric Bacon. Cedric's from Bullock County, from Statesboro, and he's a full-time professional photographer. He does photography as that, we consider classic photography as family photographs, events photographs, and does great work. But he also has his artistic side where he goes out and lets his childhood joy play with a camera, and the results are Cedric, I was looking at some pictures. I looked at a waterfall that had some greenery growing in the rocks, and I was like, that is stunning. That is a stunning. The depth and beauty, almost like a 3D effect. And I looked at several. I said, that's that right there is art in a way that I love photography. I'm not a photographer. I have some friends that are like Harvey Williams. I love Harvey. They just don't come any better than Harvey. But you're right up there with him. I can tell you that. Coming from me, that's a great compliment, because Harvey is a great friend, and I love Harvey like a brother. He's added immensely to my life and to Georgia folk and farm life and all of what we do. And I just want to. We've got a few minutes. We've got the second half of the show, and I think we mentioned the other day when I was talking to you about all photographers go through stages and phases, or ones I've known. And for a while, you'll have a period where this is what you want to photograph and concentrate on, and then it shifts, and one thing leads to another. And it's never a static, I won't say hobby or business. It's not a static thing. It changes because you're constantly rediscovering photography, some new aspect you weren't aware of, or you find something you want to delve into. So how has photography changed over time, and how's it changing, and what do you expect in the near future that you want to get into? If your wife will let you buy what you need.
Yeah, because I can't get a senses, man. Oh, man, I don't even want to sit on that. But, yeah, you're going to have to invest. You're going to invest a lot. As you know what, I'm going to just go ahead and tell you, because a lot of people, they probably curious about, when you full time, you have to consider, you have to have the best. You have to have the best stuff. You have to have top of the line stuff. I also do classes ways, and then when I tell people, the type of equipment I use and how much I pay for it, I think a lot of them reconsider about doing it for a profession, because they won't realize how much you spend. In the last 3 years, I've been in business 4 years. As of a hobbyist a year. Years in the business since 2018 to now. I done spent and invested. I don't want to say spent, because it's an investment. I've invested like $250,000 in my photography business.
That's incredible, right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you just got to, but it's, it pays for itself. And you got to have confidence in, when you spend large amounts of money on like certain stuff, you got to have the confidence that you can get it back, which I always have.
You got to just step on out there on faith, don't you? It's like walking on water. You got to just take that step and believe you can step on water.
You do. And then as far as like from how stuff changed now from when I first started out, I mean, times change. People want different, unique stuff. So if it wasn't for my clients, man, I don't think I'll be as good as I am now, because they bring me ideas that, like, at first I'll be like, oh man, I don't think I can do this, but I have to really like push myself to kind of recreate something. As far as like, if it's just like a photo with dynamic range, as far as like lighting, being in a certain position on a model or something they show me, and they want to recreate this, I have to know by looking at that photo. I have to know the angles of the light. I have to know the power of the light. I have to know the actual aperture, kind of guess close range to what kind of lens they're using. So it's to the point now, on a pinpoint, I can emulate anything somebody brings to me, like any light setup, any outdoor setup. I can emulate the exact photo. So that's what separate me from a lot of photographers, is my creative eye, as far as like creating stuff for clients. So that's what I'm kind of known for.
I have seen that, and when I was growing up in Swainsboro, we had a photographer or two, and they had long careers, and I tell you, people shouldn't discount that you can make a good living as a good photographer in your community when people learn, when they see your work and they say, wow, I want him. That's who I want to do my wedding or this event. And it's a great vocation and avocation, and it gives you every advancement you ever step forward with equipment or learning those processes and things that you have learned helps you in the fun side of photography and the serious side where you're pleasing clients, and that's fun. I know that's fun too, but it's also serious work. And do you bring the same kind of? You have to have a lot of self-discipline to be a photographer. And I don't know that I could do that, but talk to us about that. What does it take to rein yourself in and make yourself do what you got to do to be a great photographer?
Man, it's a job. It's a job, and it's got to be something you got to love, because like. Say for instance, I can do like I just did some headshots for Walmart Distribution Center, in Statesboro. I just did some headshots, and it's certain stuff you have to learn how to do when you're using like editing programs. Like, say for instance, I had a young lady that you can't see it. I didn't in person, but when I got on the camera, I can shooting a high resolution, you can see stuff that you can't see with the naked eye. So you have to know how to, like, remove hair frizz, remove remove blemishes, and even the skin tone out. Because a lot of times you have people with uneven skin tone. There's a assortment of stuff that you have to learn, and you have to like be good at.
Yeah, because the way digital photography is such a clear and peering. It's like looking through the eyes of an owl. I mean, it's up close and personal.
That's what I'm saying.
And you can't. You could an old film a photograph of a face. It didn't show all that. But yeah, digital is such a clear medium. Then you've got to learn the art of fixing it where people aren't shocked by the way they look.
That's what I'm saying.
If you did, you would have your day's work done if you took a headshot of me. Yeah. It'd be a lot of editing.
Come on, Wade, don't do it. Come on, Wade.
They wouldn't be left. It doesn't but my ears and my chin, and two of my chins. That'd be all you'd have left.
Come on, Wade. But Wade, it's another thing that's kind of taking over photography. And if you don't, I feel like the newer photographers, if you're not on this type of kind of photography / editing, you kind of get left behind. Cause that's what it's kind of progress into. You ever heard of? I know Anthony mentioned it in his photography. Anthony does a lot of it, and I actually do a lot of it. But you probably couldn't tell, because when I do my stuff in the studio, I kind of choose like a background that blends in with the light source and the light that's reflecting off of the people. But as far as like composites, you know how you gotta you take a photo of something and you put it in another photo. That's really
which
taking
Anthony
over.
Does. What Anthony is great at that.
Oh my God, he does great.
Harvey saw his work.
He is, man.
he said, Anthony's a genius. Yeah, he does.
Man. Hey, he's on another level, man. I done seen his growth when he was first starting to shoot to now. It's amazing, man. I tell him all the time, but that's the thing. You got to learn how to, stay with the time. Just like you say, you got to stay with the time if you want to be prolific or something, So
yeah, you get left behind very quickly. And you're talking about the amount of money you've spent. The amount of money you spent, you were talking about, it wasn't because you just went crazy spending. It's because in order to stay at the top of your game and be fulfill your requests, you have to have the equipment to do it with.
You got to. Yeah. You got to pay for the subscriptions for the programs. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot. And if you would, like at first, stepping out into the business, if you get discouraged, man, you ain't gonna make it.
No, I can see that. Gonna make it. No, you got to be driven. You do. To be and going out and doing nature photography, it's a separate thing. And I've looked at your professional work and your portfolio as far as your customers and what you bring to that, and what you bring when you go outdoors and you see the things that you want to photograph, and you do it in such a magnificent way. And you have to. People don't understand. You can go out and take. There's an old saying I don't remember from college. It said talking about infinity, demonstrating infinity. If you're given enough time, if you put an infinite number of monkeys in front of an infinite number of typewriters, and they would eventually recreate the works of Shakespeare or any other. And I suppose, given enough keystrokes, but that's the way some people do photography. They go out and take 1 million pictures, and then they find 2 or 3 that are impressive, and they are impressive. Yep. And I've done that. I've taken thousands of pictures, and I've got about 3 that I've put out here like, hey, man, I'm good. But I've got thousands that you never saw that weren't looking at, and you'll never see them. But with a great photographer like you, with like Anthony, like Harvey, like Scotty Womack, like Greg Threet, like Cal Avery, and the others that and I'm leaving somebody out, and bless you, I hope not, but that have been a part of Georgia Folk and Farm Life. But you've got an eye for what's there before it's there. Before you've got to know this is going to be a great image, or this has the potential to be a great image. And knowing and recognizing that is the basis to mine of all photography.
You're right.
Otherwise, you're just doing it in such numbers that once in a while they'll say on a blind hog, even a blind hog find an acorn once in a while.
Yeah.
And so if I go out and take a lot of pictures, I could get a good one. But I've done what y'all do with the equipment and what you have to learn. It amazes me. Yeah. And you have to constantly, it's evolving, and you have to chase it all the times to stay where you want to be. It ain't running on a treadmill. You out there rolling, ain't you?
Nope. You got to be. That's just like when I photograph. I love photographing eagles because they the only birds of prey that they ain't scared of you. So you can sit right up on an eagle, and it's gonna sit there and look at you like you crazy.
Yeah, because they're not afraid of you. That's right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So with those, they're my most favorite, bird to photograph other than osprey. But eagles, man, that's just it's just something about them. They're just so majestic and just, I don't know, they dominant. They dominant presence. It just frees you and, just lock in on them, and you just have to watch them till they fly away.
Well, I believe eagles know they're photogenic, and they're, you see old dumpster cat, they don't stop and preen and look at, but you see one of those really fancy, expensive cats like these old ladies pay big money for, and they're long hair and they're fluffy, and then they sit around like looking beautiful, Well, I think, an eagle, he knows. A buzzard is not photogenic because he knows, look, I'm a buzzard,
I know.
okay? I'm just a buzzard. Y'all don't be taking my nothing to see here. Move along. But the eagle, he's like, yeah, I'm the symbol of this nation, and I'm pretty, and I'm the big, and I'm bad, and I'm beautiful, and take my picture.
Yep.
And so
I'm just going to sit here.
I just said, and let you take my picture. I'm not like
You're
that.
right.
Matt, would you be a buzzard or eagle? How photogenic are you?
I feel like a buzzard today.
Today?
No, come on, man.
Yeah, today I feel like a buzzard.
Y'all, Matt has, by the way, Matt has the COVID, and maybe I shouldn't have, but he's been a great soldier today, and in spite of being sick, he's producing the show tonight as usual, and I thank him for that, showing up when you're sick. That's a good trooper there. And we're getting close to we're coming up on the end of the show, and it's gone quickly, hasn't it, Cedric?
Oh yeah.
It's amazing. I sit down. Some shows go slow. Some we just get a ball rolling, and it's amazing how quickly you look up at the clock and it's over and done with. So, but thank you for being the guest that you have been tonight. You've been it's great. Listened on the podcast after tonight, Cedric, and let me know what you think of the show. And thank you for all the listeners out there. And I appreciate everybody that helps make Georgia Folk and Farm Life on Facebook and on the radio. The success has been, and I thank Meeks Brothers Cattle Company for sponsoring the show, and I thank Matt for Georgia Radio and everything he does there. Thank you, Matt. It's been a blast tonight.
Thanks, Wade.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Cedric. Thanks, Cedric.
And Wade, thanks. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Country, that's what I grew up listening to.
Georgia Radio. We love you more than peanuts and peaches. So glad you're here.